Dead man walking.
Hello, boys, and welcome to episode 74 of Talking Taker, our encyclopedic exploration digging up the career of the greatest professional wrestling character of all time. My name is Alex Dorio. I am one of your co-hosts, and I am joined, as always, by my fellow creature of the night, my tag team partner, my wrestling buddy, Mr. Travis White. And Travis, I'm thinking we should be joined by Jenny and Kate tonight, because apparently this month on Talking Taker is Bring Your Wife to Work Month, according to all this build-up.
Bring your spouse to work month, exactly. It absolutely is. We covered a lot of that on last week's episode with, Insurrection, and then, it's going to continue here to Judgment Day, and, apparently there was something, maybe it was like a corporate mandate, bring your wife to work.
Maybe that was it.
Hey, giving coupons or something, I'm not sure what it was, but anyway. Yeah, we'll see if we can get a run-in for one of our wives here.
Well, we are talking about Judgment Day 2001 here on the show, a big-time main event for the WWF Championship as The Undertaker takes on Stone Cold Steve Austin for, I've lost count of how many times we've talked about Mason on this podcast, but we'll talk about that here in a little while. We're going to do what we always do, going through one match at a time through The Undertaker's career, one pay-per-view match at a time, telling you the story of how we got there, talking about the match, reviewing it, and all that good stuff. So we thank you for joining us, everybody out there, whether it's your first time or your 74th time joining us. We appreciate you out there listening. But Travis, you mentioned before we got on, you wanted to mention, we're going to take our time traveling motorcycle back 18 years now to 2001. But we had an Undertaker sighting right here in 2019 that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, man. I just recently stumbled across, in fact, this morning before I went to work, I stumbled across this. It's video from onit.com, who they used to sponsor Steve Austin's podcast. They might still, I don't know. I don't listen to his as much as I used to. But anyway, they're a big gym brand, and they do supplements and stuff like that. And they're kind of like GNC, I think. But anyway, they have these Onnit stories about different sports and stuff. And they have one called True Wrestling. And it's got these two guys. I don't remember their names. It's honestly not important. But, I think Ricky Starks and Aaron Solo are their names. Aaron Solo is Bailey's fiance. So I guess he is kind of maybe important one day in the wrestling business. But anyway, it's these two guys, and they wrestle in the Indies down in Mexico and down in Texas. And apparently in late 2018, they sat down with Taker, the dead man, Big Daddy Dead Man himself, Mark Calloway, at the Schmidt Family Barbecue in Bee Cave, Texas.
Is that a thing?
SCHMIDT, Schmidt Family Barbecue.
He was just visiting a family's barbecue, and they went and interviewed him?
So I guess in the course of the documentary, it's about 24 or 5 minutes, I think, but he's only in it for probably 7 or 8, just kind of dispersed throughout the story of the episode. But one of the guys says that they knew that Taker lived nearby, but they didn't know that he ate there, and so they ran into him there one time. Yeah, it's a restaurant.
It was at somebody's backyard barbecue.
Sorry.
4th of July cookout.
The Schmidt family having the Callaways over.
That's what I thought you meant.
Just took a whole other turn. Sorry. No, it's a restaurant.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay, all right, it's all good.
Oh, man. Pop the brakes. That just popped me huge.
He's from Texas. He loves barbecue.
Oh, man. So, anyway. This might be the greatest podcast in the history of our great sport. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, so it's the Schmidt Family Barbecue Restaurant in Bee Cave, Texas.
I'm sure it's great. I can't wait to visit.
I can't wait to go. One of the guys runs into Taker there, introduces himself, and then that leads to him being on this episode. Apparently, oh my goodness, it got me huge. So anyway, I want to borrow a couple quotes that he says. I'm gonna read these from a transcription from Wrestling Inc. I want to give them credit for doing this, writing this out. But he talks about let me find it right here. He says sometimes you have to set the angle within a match, but you got to have a reason for one guy to be loved and one guy to be hated. At the end of the day, whatever you're doing in the ring, you want it to look real, genuine, and authentic. And he says, I think that's a huge problem nowadays. Everybody acts the same way. Everybody overplays to the audience, and it's like, okay, what do you do next? And then there's another scene. I think it's actually in the Instagram clip that's kind of a little bit re-edited. And he says, everybody's calling, you want to backflip off of this and onto that. And he says, once you do that a couple times, it's like, okay, what do you got to do now?
Yeah.
He says, well, I got to do 2 flips and then 2.5. And then he said, when they get used to that, then what do you do? Instead of learning the finer nuances of what we do, and that's tell stories. He says, granted, physical, painful stories, but stories nonetheless. And that just stood out to me in all seriousness. So I'm trying to get off my giggle box here. It stood out to me because as we're going to talk about this match, there's nothing fancy about this match. It's more of an Attitude Era brawl, you know. And honestly, as we're recording this kind of on the heels of Wrestle Kingdom, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch some of the matches there. I've seen some highlights, but honestly, a lot of it was flip this. It's physicality. It's this fast-paced style. It's athletic. I didn't see a lot of stories being told, man. And sometimes you don't see that's a complaint about the product nowadays, you know, even like he says, the finer nuances, and that's what we do is we tell stories in the ring, you know. So I just really – and in this interview, he seems like the coolest dude to just sit down with, man.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He seems awesome. So anyway, I wanted to put that over. We'll try to put a link up on our social media if we can. If we can link it to it.
It's already up there. I just tweeted it as
okay.
we're recording this here
right.
a few days out, so you can go back through it. I might tweet it out there again later.
Yeah.
But like you say, you can just search for On It Wrestling or On It Undertaker, ONNIT Undertaker. It should pop right up there on there. Thank you for tuning us in on that. I gotta check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But like I said, he just his grasp of the business is great. And like I said, this is recorded in the end of last year, and so he knows what he's talking about still. And also one thing he talks about too in this little interview is saying that when you're in the indies, you kind of learn stuff that will prepare you for later on. He goes on to talk about how when the Beware of Dog incident, when the power went out,
right?
He's like, we had to improvise. We just had to do stuff. Like, you got to ad lib because you don't want to give the finish away, you know, when the lights are out. So he kind of talks about that, like, you know, if you don't do the indies and you're not allowed to improvise and everything's, you know, scripted, then you just fail basically in the ring. So I just really appreciated his take on the business there. He's a genius, and we appreciate him. That's why we're doing this podcast. So anyway, I wanted to put that over real quick before we begin. So,
man, that's really cool. You know, we've talked on here at length about how we're not wrestlers, how we we did,
no means.
Yeah, we took a few bumps and trained for a couple of weeks, but we are not professionals by any means. So you take everything we say with a grain of salt because we're fans and everything, and you know, we can have our own opinion on the business. But that right there, that's coming from one of the greatest of all time, an all-time legend.
From Big Daddy.
Yeah, and he knows a thing or two, and I don't think it sounds like it's just. You know, pardon the pun, but an old guy saying, you know, get out of my yard. Like, you know, I think he's giving real wise advice that people listen to. And the younger generation, they're always going to push it further. You know, they're never going to listen until it's too late most of the time. But you could still, you can change and you can innovate while still using some of this wisdom and changes that he would be talking about. Because, you know, I'm sure Luthez would watch an Undertaker match and tell him, you know, you're going too fast, you're doing way too much, all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
but you shouldn't dive over the top rope or walk the top rope. Something
exactly,
like, you know, exactly.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it is what it is. And like, again, I'm not knocking New Japan. I enjoy the product, and I will watch probably most of Wrestle Kingdom itself. But I'm just saying,
what he's saying is true.
Yes, you gotta tell stories, man, and you get that. I mean, we get that in WWF or WWE as well. You know, there's this the 45-minute match on Raw. Sweet. What the heck was the story? What were the stakes? Yeah. What was the point of it? You know,
there's doing great moves and having an athletic exhibition is really cool, but that's also if that's all you're doing. That's why you're going to have the lowest ratings you've ever had.
Yeah, and there's a balance between it. So, but anyway, I just want to put that over before we get into this because it's pretty much the antithesis of what this match is. This match is nothing pretty. It's fun though, but we'll get into it and we'll break it down here.
Well, Undertaker, if you want to come on the only podcast that's dedicated to you completely, 100%, the invitation's open to you. We can come to the family barbecue if you want, or, you know, whatever it takes there, buddy. We'll We'll cook up some Boston butt, pulled pork, whatever. If you like ribs, we can do that. Carolina sauce. Whatever you're into, man. We would love to talk to you as well, Undertaker. Just follow us on Instagram. Come on, that's all we're asking for here.
Exactly.
Then we can talk about the podcast stuff after that. We'll figure it out, buddy.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So,
well, let's figure this out, man. Let's figure out Judgment Day 2001, or in the words of Jerry Lynn, what do we call it?
Judgment Day.
There you go.
Whoopity-doo! I can't encourage you guys enough to go watch Judgment Day just for his interview.
Yeah, we might need to post a link to that on our page. Well, we're going to, like we said, travel back in time to May of 2001. We're going to pick up after Insurrection 2001, which, if you skipped out on that one last week, I encourage you to go check it out. We think those UK shows are real sleeper shows, and a lot of you probably didn't watch it going back in the day, but a lot of you did, since we've heard from a lot of UK listeners. But us Americans might not have ever seen those, might not think they're important, so maybe you skip over those on this journey. Go check it out, man. We had a lot of fun talking about it, and there's a lot of missing pieces as we're going into Judgment Day that you won't have heard about unless you go listen to that episode. So go check that out, put us on pause, come back, and we're going to pick up at Raw 415 on May 7th, 2001, and, I'm just going to... I said everything about that being important, but this show opens up with a recap of SmackDown with absolutely no mention of Insurrection. So
exactly,
forget whatever I just said. There's actually not a ton to talk about on this episode of Raw because Vince McMahon has ordered a 24-hour cooling off period between Stone Cold and The Undertaker because of their big brawls and crazy fights last week on Raw and SmackDown, and McMahon has given Undertaker the night off for his own good. So Undertaker is actually not going to be on this show at all. Excuse me. He's not going to be on the show at all in person. You might think when someone gets the night off, that's like code for, well, they're going to show up at the end. But that didn't happen with Undertaker yet.
So it's not only is it bringing your spouse to work day, it's also you don't have to work either.
It's not a bad month, I guess.
Not bad. Not a bad deal.
So instead of Undertaker on this show, we get Mick Foley coming in, and because they're in Long Island tonight, and he's got a new book coming out. So he's going to come out and plug that, even though he's technically not allowed to be there. But he puts over the main event of Judgment Day, which we learned is going to be Undertaker and Austin. He says that he enjoyed Undertaker throwing Stone Cold through a glass window on SmackDown, and tells Austin that at Judgment Day he can't wait to see Undertaker make him famous. But he tells him not to worry about that because being made famous isn't all that bad. It worked out really well for Mick Foley because he's got a new book out and everything.
Anything to shill that book.
Always, man. Number one shill of all time.
This is in Long Island, which is the burial place of Taker's parents, remember?
Oh, that's right. I wonder if he went and laid some roses on the grave.
Maybe he did.
Maybe that's why he gave Taker the night off.
Those of you that don't remember, that's a little callback to when I was on Vince Russo's show and he clarified that for me.
Oh, yeah, that's canon.
Yeah,
It's official.
That is canon. It is in the storyline. Thanks to Vince Russo.
Well, this segment really just exists to... I'm not going to get into all the details because it involves Rikishi, and I don't really want to talk about it, but it exists to turn the Big Brown Machine back to babyface after this months-long torturous heel turn that he's been on.
6 months.
Yeah. Mick Foley convinces Rikishi he's just being used by Mr. McMahon. Steph and Vince and Regal all come out trying to convince Rikishi otherwise, and Stephanie... in her full volume heel voice, just screeches out to Rikishi to
take your big, fat, cheesy, oily cakes and stick them in Mick Foley's face! Rub them in his face! Do it now!
And that's what turns the tide. Man, Rikishi can't stand that. So he loses his cool and super kicks Commissioner Regal, and he dances with Mick Foley to the Too Cool music. First time he's danced in months, and it's 20 minutes of my life that I wish I could have back.
Well, I'm glad you had to watch it. I saw the recap of it on SmackDown, and it bored me to tears.
It was rough. And I mention it because it's going to lead to Rikishi and Austin in the main event.
Oh, yeah.
Austin's going to pick up a win over Rikishi in that main event, and Austin gets a little bit of a beat down in on Foley after the match, but Rikishi makes the save with a chair and does get a big old stink face on Stephanie to really cement his babyface turn. And for all the Stephanie haters out there, which I can be one of them sometimes, I will say she took this stink face head on. Like,
dude,
her face
literally
was directly in between his butt cheeks. Like,
face on, man.
Some guys will turn their face when they take the stink face, but she went all in.
She's all the way live for that one. Yeah. She was hashtag all in.
Yes, she was. But Undertaker was on this show. He cuts a promo at WWE Studios in Stamford as JR and Heyman interview
So he's
him.
at work.
Yeah, he's at work.
It's Stanford.
Yeah, had to go to the office. The announcers ask Undertaker, what's this 24-hour cooling period all about? Taker says, it's all really simple. Vince doesn't want him to take off Austin's other eye, because we know he poked one eye out on SmackDown, turned him into the one-eyed rattlesnake.
Oh.
Says Vince wants to protect his investment, but Undertaker says, well, there's no one left to protect Austin anymore. He talks about Austin making a deal with the devil and having to live with those consequences, and the consequence is that he's now number one on Dead Man Inc.'s hit list. And this is not... Yeah, it reads better, but it's really not one of Undertaker's best promos. We've seen him deliver some really cool promos during this time, but he's just kind of ranting and rambling and talking really fast, and I didn't really... It's not my favorite one. Although he does say...
In 13 days, Austin, I'm going to skin your rattlesnake ass, hang it on a shed, and when your hide is nice and dry, I'll be wearing you on my feet. How do you like that?
That was a pretty good line.
There you go.
And, you know...
Snakeskin boots. You can make a tie out of it.
He could, or if Sarah has something to say about it, she might turn them into some snakeskin pants. Hashtag blame Sarah.
Exactly. Or he might wrap them around his kneecaps like Austin does. Because of his ego, as we found out last week. If you don't get that, you didn't listen to episode 73.
Come on, y'all. Austin cuts a promo on Undertaker as well during the show, and he says he'll be wearing the Undertaker's butt on his feet instead. So this is
that's like Joe Dirt. You want to fight? What my head? Stick your head up above and fight for air. That sounds terrible.
Both men are gonna try to skin each other after this match is over.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, but that's about it for that episode of Raw.
Oh, wow, what a depressing episode of Raw that was.
Not one of the best of all time, no.
No. Well, that's going to lead us into SmackDown 90 on May 10th, 01. We see Taker arriving backstage, and Vince intercepts him. He comes in, he's like, I want to make sure you and Austin can survive in the same building after your cooling off period, and not looking for any trouble here. Austin's already here, and if there's any physicality between you two, it could put your title match at Judgment Day in jeopardy. And Vince says,
I want to ask you one more time, are you cool? Yeah, boss. I'm cool in the game. Cool in the game.
and then he walks away. And he says it almost like I just did, like Snoop Dogg or something. Yeah, boss, I'm cool in the gang. So, cool in the gang reference there, which is excellent. I guess they could play Celebration or something at that point. So,
Dad Junkie.
Exactly. Oh, man. Taker walks by some J-Bron backstage, and he's like, you seen Austin? And he's like, yeah, he's right around the corner. And so Taker has something for him, and he pulls this shiny old Jacob Marley chain out of his bag. Again, if you don't get that, you can listen to episode 73. So he's got his chain. He's in the chain gang, I guess. So he barges into Stone Cold's dressing room looking for him, and he says, we got a few things to discuss, son. That's all right, because I ain't going anywhere tonight. I think I'll sit right here and wait for you, because Austin is not in there. So Austin's missing out of his own locker room. Later on, this plays on throughout the whole night. There's a lot of backstage segments, not a lot of in-ring stuff, a lot of backstage stuff. So we see Austin and Deborah in Vince's office, and Austin's like, take us with my stuff. And he's got that chain. I'm not going to go in there and get my stuff. Someone's going to go get my stuff. Which I just wrote, that's a far cry from the Austin of old who would have not cared, barged in there head first and just wailed away on anybody who had a chain or not. He doesn't care. So he's definitely, in this heel mode and becoming a pansy and this kind of stuff, which is just, again, it was so sudden, such a sudden change of character for him. So later on, we see Taker going through Austin's stuff. He pulls out some Red Man Chew, gets a fat dip, so Austin's a dipper as well, we find out here. He pulls out some Red Man, takes a fat dip and puts it in his mouth, and then this beer guy, this beer jabroni, delivers some beer. He's got like 24-pack of beer, and Taker's like, I assure you that he'll get every single one of them, and then he spits into his dip cup. Later on, Austin's angry. He's like, he's got my belt. He's got my chew. What's next?
The two most important things right there.
Exactly. So Vince is like, calm down, and Deborah tells him to calm down, and he doesn't take too kindly to that, so he gives her a dirty look. So then later on, Vince is like, I got a plan. Let's send Deborah in there to get your stuff. He never hit a lady. And Austin's like, best idea I've heard all day, and which took me way back to SNL. But anyway, and he's like, go in there and get my stuff, Deborah. And so she enters the locker room, and she says, Taker, I'm politely asking you to leave. And he goes, what, I don't get no slap this time? And so he tells her, yeah, exactly. Call back, was that to
last week?
SmackDown?
Yeah,
last week. So then he tells her to, I want you to deliver this message to Steve. And he then spits his fat dip on her chest, it's disgusting, and I just felt for her, as we've mentioned episodes ago. Well, it's going to get even worse here for somebody else in a minute, and I really felt for this next person. So later on, Deborah comes in and she's like, he spit tobacco on my dress, and it got it on my leg even, and so, which I guess that puts it over the top.
That's it. On my leg.
Got it on my leg. Yeah.
I mean,
so
she have great legs.
She does. She does. So Austin is absolutely incredulous, and he's like, this is the worst idea I've ever heard. Why did you go in there? So he's immediately turning his back on Vince. And,
I love heel Austin. I'm just going to put it out there, man.
As it's getting more and more, and he's getting his comedic timing is awesome. I love it. So Austin's like, Vince goes, I got just the guy to go get your stuff. So then Vince fetches Commissioner Regal. He's like, I need you to go get your stuff and go get Austin's stuff. And he has to explain everything that's transpired up to this point to Regal, who's apparently not watching his own show he commissions. So I hate wrestling amnesia, as we pointed out last week.
No, but that's a huge thing going through all these shows. There's like so many segments, so many backstage things on. Yeah, even on the pay-per-view. It feels like Russo,
too. Yeah. And Russo's, again, he's miles away from any wrestling company at this point. So, anyway, he says, Regal says, I can't get him out. It's the Undertaker. And Vince is like, he'll listen to reason. You're a reasonable man. He also has a chain, by the way. And Regal's like making those facials, only Regal can do. So he goes and knocks on the door of Austin's locker room, and he comes in, and Taker's drinking Austin's beer. And Regal's like, you're trespassing. And Taker says, the door says Undertaker's yard. And Regal fusses at him, and he's like, you got a disgusting habit of spitting tobacco, and I don't know why you're doing this, and this is disgusting and filthy. And then in a moment that just takes me back, in a terrible flashback, Taker then pours his entire cup of dip spit. And at this point, it's probably 3 inches of dip spit. He pours it on Regal's head, and I mean, I cannot put over Regal's facials. They are phenomenal. It's absolutely insane.
Well, do you think this was working dip spit, or do you think this was shoot dip spit?
The way it molasses down his head slowly and it wasn't just like water, it looked like shoot spit. Oh yeah, I bet it reminded me of the spit that went on my head.
I bet dollars to donuts that was shoot spit in that cup, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And
so Regal's not pleased, and then Taker sits down and he goes,
Commissioner, don't worry about it. It's good for your hair. That is a nasty habit, though.
It is a bad habit, though. I love that. And I just wrote in my notes, tobacco's wacko if you're a teen, which is funny because Christian and Edge are backstage, and they run into Regal, and he's got all the stuff on his head. And apparently they haven't been watching either, because they're asking him what happened. And he's like, oh, I had an accident with the coffee. And they're like, well, your coffee sucks. It smells terrible. So anyway, and then...
So I finally figured out that's why they have to say the tobacco's wacko if you're a teen.
If you're a teen, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool if you're, if you're a middle-aged guy.
Middle-aged biker, yeah. Or the WWF champion.
Yeah, by
So
all
the red-
means, chew tobacco. But if you're a
Yeah,
team,
chew away.
it's totally
Yeah.
wacko.
But it's just funny because they eventually learned it's tobacco, and then Christian's like, man, tobacco's wacko if you're a team, which I just thought was really funny. So, later, we're not done yet, folks. Taker's staring at the title. He finally gets fed up. He throws his beer and throws a chair. He's like, I'm going to make Austin come to me, and he puts on Austin's vest.
Ooh.
The little I think it's the BMF vest, and he wraps his fist in a chain. So he's going hunting, I guess. So then we immediately cut to a Tobacco's Wacko if you're a teen commercial, which I just think
incredible.
couldn't be placed any better.
Perfect
So,
timing.
yeah.
I don't think they watched this show, the tobacco people. I don't think they'd be sponsoring it anymore.
No. After this week, they definitely wouldn't. So, in the midst of all this overstuffed stuffed crust pizza episode, we got Triple H and Stephanie leave in the limo because Stephanie almost gets another stink face from Rikishi, so she's terrified and nervous. So they leave. That's going to play into something's going to happen in a little bit. So Taker rides down on his motorcycle. He's wearing Austin's vest. He's got the title around his waist, and he's got a Jacob Marley chain around his neck. So, and I just wrote, he definitely looks like a BMF in this.
Oh,
this
yeah,
outfit.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, he says the whole night's not been about the title. It's been about finding out if Austin has a set. And he calls Austin to the ring since you won't show up backstage. Of course, Vince comes out. He's like, Austin's twice the man you are. Tells Taker to take off the chain. Taker obliges, and then he takes off the vest. He's like, if that's what it takes to get Austin out here, I'll do it. So apparently Austin's scared of vests and chains. I don't know.
It's two biggest fears.
Yeah. So Vince is like, why don't you take the title off so you don't use it as a weapon? I've been down this road before. You like to hit people with it. So Taker just takes it and just throws it like at JR and Heyman. Like completely just trashes it. Just throws it across to the outside. He's like, now it's just me and these two soup bones waiting on your boy, Austin. So then Vince goes around and makes sure that every metal folding chair is removed. He starts kicking people off the chairs, like these little like production guys and everything. And then Austin's music hits, and he comes out and rushes to the ring, and they start trading blows on Austin and Taker. But Austin's just bumping and feeding like he's a cruiserweight here in true heel fashion. And then Vince comes in, hits Taker with a chair from behind, but of course he no-sells it. Then Taker chokeslams Vince. And it's pretty cool looking because Vince takes a good chokeslam. Better than he takes a stunner, that's for sure. He's the worst Undertaker.
Oh, yeah.
And Austin then attacks Taker, stomps a mud hole in him. He's about to hit him with a chair, and then Kane's music hits, and he returns. So, exactly. Back from arm rehab, I guess.
I guess.
I guess. Austin heads up the ramp, but eats a big boot from Kane. The Brothers of Destruction then stalk Austin back into the ring. He's forced to leave to the crowd, and they stand atop the ramp to close the show. And again, Triple H, part of the power trip, he's left earlier, so that's why he couldn't come out and help. So that's why I mentioned that earlier. That played into this whole build. So,
well, perhaps that's leading into take a breather, man.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's leading into the two-man power trip's new plan that they're going to put into place here on episode Raw. Since Austin was isolated and attacked by the brothers, they're going to hatch a plan to do that to the Undertaker here on this Raw. May 14th, 2001, the Go Home Raw for Judgment Day 2001, episode 416. And they show a recap of everything that happened. And, it's some of this is good. Some of this is I don't know. I'm not super feeling this feud and this matchup at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know how were you kind of feeling the same way?
Same. Yeah, I'm not really feeling it at this point, honestly.
I was just trying to figure out like what it is about it that's not really clicking and missing with me. Like maybe the heel face dynamics are weird. Like maybe it's better when Undertaker's heel and Austin's baby face for those two. Maybe
probably.
And maybe it's just that I felt like Austin, we like a lot of stuff that he's doing as a heel, but it was just the wrong time and the wrong place for him to be a heel. It just didn't. We've talked about this before, but when Hulk Hogan turned heel, it was like long overdue. But Austin, it just didn't feel like it was. You're still a few years away from it. Probably there's still so much life left in him as the BMF, as the leader of the WWF. So something felt like it wasn't quite clicking with me. But go ahead.
What if he hadn't been a heel at all until after he walked down the company and then when he came back?
That could have worked.
Remember like when Rock left and then he came back and he was a heel because he was a Moose Star? What if that would have worked out? I don't know. I'm
could
just
have done
saying.
something like that. I could see that.
But anyway, That would change a lot of history, but anyway.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I'm just saying what if,
Well, I say all that before I watch the show, but then the two-man power trips start the show here. They each get their separate entrances. And I'll tell you what, dude, I believe they're in Cincinnati for this episode of Raw.
Yes.
They got a ton of heel heat, man. They came out and were getting booed out of the building. So maybe, I don't know, maybe this kind of worked better than people actually remember it. And we're going to see that at the pay-per-view, too. Austin got a ton of heel heat during the match as well.
I was blown away.
Me, too.
I don't remember it being that significant. I was blown away watching this match,
Triple H gets on the mic first. He says it's clear that Kane is not the smartest guy in his family. He's got to get his stuff in, and challenges Kane to a chain match at Judgment Day for the Intercontinental title. The announcers are just incredulous over this, saying, well, Kane's got a broken arm. How could you do it? Why would you ever do something like that? And the whole point of this promo is Stone Cold and Triple H are basically just daring Undertaker and Kane to come out here. They keep saying they're not dumb enough to accept their challenges. That would be so stupid for them to come out here. So it's clear that they've got some sort of plan in place. Stone Cold, again, just being a great heel here, says Undertaker's a coward for sneak attacking him and using weapons, and says he would never do those types of things, and he doesn't deserve to be treated like that. So remember Austin saying he doesn't deserve to be treated like that, because you're going to hear it a lot.
Yeah.
Stone Cold challenges Taker and Kane to a tag team title match tonight for the main event, and once again says they're not dumb enough to accept that challenge. And Stone Cold's bashing on the town that they're in, and again, just getting massive heel heat here. He keeps having to stop what he's doing because the crowd's just booing over what he's saying. It's really, really big. And in return, Undertaker is going to interrupt them to a huge babyface reaction. The crowd is very, very excited to see him. And even though Kane came back on SmackDown, Undertaker walks out by himself. Or, I should say, he's got the Equalizer with him around his neck.
Oh, Denzel. Oh.
Yeah. Dude, if he walked out with Denzel Washington, that'd be awesome. You know he could cut a sweet promo.
Oh, yeah. Same one he cuts in every movie.
Exactly. Oh man. He accepts the tag team challenge for tonight and tells Austin, I believe he's used this line before, to give his soul to the Lord because his you-know-what belongs to him.
Yep. There you go.
Taker then says if Triple H and Austin don't like surprises, then they're not going to like what happens next. As Kane's pyro explodes and Kane comes out of the crowd into the ring, and he's got the Equalizer 2 with him, swinging it around his neck. Austin gets away real fast, but Kane gets a few shots in on Triple H as JR's so excited. He's screaming, Kane's got a chain! Kane's got a chain! Kane's got a chain!
There's Kane! There's Kane! Kane's got a chain! Kane's got a chain!
That's France.
He didn't realize what he did at first. He said it, but then he was like, "Oh, it's rhymes. I'm just gonna keep saying it over again."
Kane got a chain. Kane got a chain. He loved it, dude.
And the brothers stand tall, swinging their chains around their head, and the crowd is just in love with this.
Oh, man.
Give these two guys a prop, a weapon to swing around. The crowd is here for it. And unfortunately, that's going to be the most exciting part of Undertaker's night. It's all going to be downhill from here as we enter into this show-long storyline of the police arriving to the building. We see Baby Coach backstage announcing the breaking news that the police have arrived and they are searching for the Undertaker. And I just thought, God, I hope he hasn't been caught raising too much hell.
We had a 1947. Raising too much hell.
Jeez.
Oh. But now when you say the police, you don't mean Sting, right?
No, I don't mean Sting, the wrestler, or the musician, Hall of Fame musician.
Okay.
I mean one plainclothes police officer.
The police.
Yeah. And not the big boss man either.
Oh, okay.
Later on, we see Coach standing outside the Dead Man Inc. locker room. It's got a sign on the door that says that. And
wow.
It does. He's
The
got his own.
business is open.
Yeah, excuse me. That's what I should have said. His business office. And Coach is talking, and all of a sudden, Undertaker bolts out of the locker room, and he's got He's got all his dress clothes on, and he's got his bags, and he runs full speed out of the locker room, out of the arena.
He's so fast. He's like a puma, man. He runs by.
Well, we find out, unfortunately, that this
that.
is because a police officer informs us and Coach that Undertaker's wife, Sarah, has been involved in a car accident. And he can't give us the details on what happens, but the police are providing an escort for Undertaker to get to the airport. And, apparently it's very serious. The announcers are acting very serious about it, very somberly. And, Undertaker's got to leave and go check on his wife.
I hope she's okay.
Yeah, I hope she's okay. Stone Cold hopes she's okay, too. He goes and finds the police officer before he leaves the building. But what he really wants to know is, how did the Undertaker take the news? And the police officer is confused, and Austin says, well, what was the expression on his face? And the police officer says he was upset. And Austin thanks the officer, and a little, very, very subtle smile creeps across Austin's face as we're beginning to understand what exactly is going on here. Kane tries to leave the building a little bit later on to join his brother, but Commissioner Regal stops him before he leaves. Unfortunately, Kane's not wearing like that jumpsuit that we saw him arrive to Kane's casual wear. I wish he was. He's just wearing his gear, though.
Kane's windbreaker from Nashville. The purple windbreaker.
Regal tells Kane, I know you're upset, but if we have a show to do tonight, people have paid good money to see you perform here, and your brother already has breached his contract by leaving, and if you leave tonight, I'll have to fire the both of you. So Kane tosses his bag down, storms off as a subtle smile creeps across William Regal's face now.
Man.
It appears he may be in on all this. Regal later on announces that the show must go on despite what happens to The Undertaker, and they need a main event tonight, so he has no choice but to match up Triple H and Stone Cold against Kane in a handicap match.
Oh, of course. There's no choice.
No choice. So, kind of shades of our insurrection battle. Kane taking Undertaker's place here. JR just cannot believe this asinine matchup. He's very upset
I love
about
that
it.
word.
It's a good word.
Disco Inferno uses all the time.
Does he?
Yes.
That's the only good thing he does. Vince and Deborah are backstage, and Deborah is very concerned about what happened to Sarah. It appears she's not really in on this plan. She seems actually upset, and she says, I hope nothing like this ever happens to me. And Austin tells her, don't worry about it. It will never, ever happen to you. Stone Cold clarifies with William Regal that the main event is a handicap match, and he's trying to act all innocent here, saying, well, is it really fair for Kane to have to compete in this match after what their family has been through? And Regal assures him that it's fair, and Austin says, okay, well, as long as it's fair, then I want to make sure that the tag team titles are on the line tonight. Keeps going. The Power Trip and their wives are all backstage. Deborah and Stephanie are back there. And
Have you guys heard all the horrible rumors about her condition?
Oh, yeah. I've heard that she has massive hemorrhaging.
Oh.
Well, that ain't what I heard. I heard her face was all mangled and twisted, cut up. And even if she does make it, she ain't never gonna look the same again.
Very creepy
Where'd they
stuff
hear this
there.
from?
I don't know. I guess they're on
MySpace.
Not MySpace. I was trying to say an old wrestling site. OneWrestling.com or something like that.
DDT Digest.
DDT Digest. They were all WCW, but maybe they were getting rumors.
Maybe. But it is funny how Austin's going over the top with it, because I remember seeing a replay about his part on
so
SmackDown.
So weird and so creepy, especially when he tells Deborah, like, nothing will ever happen to you. I can guarantee you that. And he's just like, just knowing their history is a little bit uncomfortable to watch. But speaking of wives, my wife did actually watch a little bit of this. She was in the room while I was watching some of this, and she commented. First of all, she said, it was during the opening segment. She said, "Is wrestling ever going to get like this again?" And I said, probably not. She's like,
chance.
No, the crowd is just into everything. There's so much passion and personality in what everyone's doing. And then she called Stone Cold Forrest Gump because he's out there in his jean shorts and he's got both leg braces on while he's got his jean shorts on. Looks like Forrest Gump. You're not wrong.
That's heresy. Oh, man.
Life is like a box of chocolates. Give me a hell yeah.
What if he says that? I want Austin to say that.
Stone Cold Forrest Gump. Like Stone Cold E.T. You ever seen that?
I seen what?
Have you seen Stone Cold E.T.?
No.
What?
I have not. Stop the tape. I might have to go watch it.
You might have to go watch that right now.
Oh.
Shout out to Stone Cold E.T. One of my favorite internet videos ever.
Oh man, I missed that one.
This is Stone Cold E.T. and I just want to order a couple White Castles to go.
Investigative journalist Michael Cole is going to really get to the bottom of all this here. Finally, he talks to Kane and the Chain, and Kane tells...
Talks to the Chain.
Talks to the Chain. Well, the Chain's going to talk here. Kane tells Taker and Sarah that this match is for them, and then he tells Triple H and Austin this is for them, and he smacks the Chain wildly against some metal pipes, just wildly clanging it up against them.
Why are there always metal pipes backstage at wrestling shows?
Why are there cookie sheets underneath the ring?
You never know.
You never know. So finally, these guys have a match, sort of. It's really, after all this talking, there's only about 5 minutes for this match to happen. So Triple H, they have a standard handicap match, but Triple H and Austin can't put Kane away. So Triple H grabs the Chain after a few minutes and just starts assaulting it in front of the referee, assaulting Kane. And so Earl Hebner's forced to toss the match out, but Austin and Triple H don't really care because this was the plan all along, to get the Undertaker out of the building, to get Kane alone, to destroy him here, as Austin grabs a mic and says he doesn't want anyone to think Stone Cold is not a heartless SOB, because he says, I am going to destroy the Undertaker on Sunday, and I got a feeling your little wife is going to be just fine, as a smile creeps across Austin's face. And we know what's going on, but the crowd, I don't know if they didn't see all the backstage segments or really just understand what to make of all this, because they're kind of dead silent for this reveal and this beatdown. But I will say it was a little bit long and a little bit convoluted, but I was entertained. It was a good way to build up some heat between these two guys and get Kane alone, and also keep Austin and Undertaker separated. They've kind of done a good job of doing that the past couple weeks, or past couple weeks of Raw at least, and not having them face off in a match every single time. So it was a little much, but still pretty entertaining.
And you know what? This is just coming to my brain right now. It's kind of reminiscent of when, the shoes on the other foot, but when they abducted Austin and tried to embalm him and all that stuff. There was all those backstage skits, and they still interacted, but they weren't having matches and trading wins and getting 50-50 booking and stuff like that. So now those were Russo days back then, but it's really reminiscent of that. That feud that they had.
Yeah, it really was.
Was that 99 with the or 98? I can't remember. Yeah, but anyway, it's funny. It's kind of like that, but Well, that'll bring us to it ain't over yet, ladies and gentlemen. This brings us to SmackDown 91, May 17th, 01. This is the go-home show for Judgment Day. And as the show opens, this camera zooms right into the sign that says Kane Inc.
Ooh.
So, Kane Incorporated.
A spinoff of Deadman. Subsidiary.
Yeah, exactly. A subsidiary of Deadman Inc. So, anyway, I guess there's one employee. I'm not sure. But the Brothers of Destruction open the show, and this Kentucky crowd is on fire for them, man.
Oh, yeah.
They love these dudes. It's great, to see them, like you mentioned, Austin and Triple H are actually getting legit heel heat, and these guys are super over baby faces by proxy of that, or by, just being on the opposite side of that. So
it was still real in Kentucky in 2001.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, this is at Freedom Hall. And I think Louisville, maybe. So, or Lexington, maybe Louisville. Anyway, Kane's dragging his Marley chain down, and because he's going to face Triple H in that chain match, and Taker looks angry, and he's pacing around the ring during his promo. I love when he paces during his promos.
Yeah.
We didn't see much of that until the kind of the end of that ministry era, and then him and Big Show, and now we got it a lot here. But I love it when he's pacing around like a caged animal. So he's like, I want to make this short and sweet. Monday, somebody called the Cincinnati PD and told my wife's in a car wreck. Then the same sorry person decided to call my wife and tell her mother was in a wreck.
Oh.
That little tidbit was left out of Raw, so I guess they had to make something up for SmackDown. So, anyway, he's like, everybody's fine. There was no wreck. So the crowd's like, oh, okay. Like all that drama from Monday is now gone. So
right.
Anyway, he says, when I'm done with whoever made the calls, they'll wish that they were in a car wreck. He says, who did it? Yeah, he said, I say it's the bald-headed, no-good, gutless SOB Austin. And he says, mess with my family, I will hurt you. He then threatens Austin, says that he's going to have a mangled face if he doesn't give me the right answers tonight. So we're going to see a lot more of this backstage stuff, just like you had on your episode of Raw. We see Austin and Deborah arrive. They come out of an elevator all of a sudden. They're just, I don't know. They're coming out of an elevator, and he tells Deborah he's going to beat Taker on Sunday, and Regal comes into their locker room and tells them about what Taker said earlier, and Austin says, is she dead? It shouldn't be funny, but it really is. He's like, telling her about, I want to tell you about Sarah. Is she dead? And it's just really funny. Austin, he's so funny as a heel, man. Honestly,
his timing was awesome.
He's so good. Yeah. But he's angry that Taker's blaming him. He's like, I wouldn't dare stoop to that level. And so in a little bit of booking that I just can't stand to let it go. It has nothing to do with Taker here, but I got to mention it because we've mentioned how, honestly, since WrestleMania 17, some of these shows have just been slapped together at the last second. And at this point, it doesn't matter because now WWF has won the war. They can be lazy if they want to. But
right.
Taz and Michael Cole tell us that Test wants Big Show at Judgment Day, and Big Show wants to fight Test. They're both former hardcore champions, so Regal made him a triple threat with Rhino.
What?
That's are you kidding me? I mean, are you kidding me? That's the justification for making that match at Judgment Day.
The most random thing I've ever heard.
But like I said, you can get away with it when you won the war.
I
There's
guess.
no one to compete with. But like seriously, it's in 72 hours, and they just throw that out there for no reason with no build because Rhino has not interacted with either one of those guys. So anyway.
Well, as we're watching the pay-per-view Judgment Day, it felt like the pay-per-view was running short even on the day of when they...
Oh,
and
sure.
it was probably running short this time. I was like, well, we need another match, so we'll throw this on there. And then we've got 10 backstage segments on the pay-per-view too. It was definitely a timing issue with that show.
Sure. So Taker bursts through Regal, refs, and Sergeant Slaughter and some other jabronis to get to Austin's locker room, and he just starts blowing Austin's face up with punches, and he finally gets pulled off, and Austin's like, I didn't make those calls. I wouldn't mess with your wife. He said, all I want is this match on Sunday, and he says, look, it's probably Triple H who did it. He's like, look how he organized that hit on me in 1999. He's like, it all adds up. He made the phone calls to Rikishi and all this stuff, and he's like, and then Taker says, well, if you're lying, Austin, I'm gonna rip your heart out. So we're gonna wear each other's skin. We're gonna rip each other's hearts out. We got a lot of angst here. So then we see Taker on the phone with the police from Cincinnati, and they tell him that the call to the Cincinnati police and to Sarah both came from Triple H's cell phone. So
suspicions are correct.
Yes. Kane hears this news, and he snaps the chain like I don't know, your dad would, like a belt when he's about to snap you.
Oh, I thought he's ripped it in half out of anger.
He puts it in his hands and ching,
okay.
moves it back and pops it like you can a belt or something. But anyway, he's angry. He's taking it out on this chain. So Taker barges back into Regal's office, and he's like, when Triple H gets here tonight, we're gonna have a no holds barred match because what I'm gonna do to that man, I will go to jail for if you don't make it no holds barred. So he demands that, and then we see Triple H and Stephanie arrive backstage, and they're just they're walking through. They're just like, hey, hi, all these wrestlers. I think Crash Holly's standing there, Bob Holly's standing there, Jericho's standing there. They're like, oh, hey, Jericho. They're just saying hi to people. It's so strange. Yeah, and everyone's kind of giving them the cold shoulder though because they've all just heard that Triple H organized this hit on Sarah or whatever.
Okay.
We also have a Haku sighting. He's backstage.
Hey, still around.
And Steph goes, hey, I like your hair. Again, it shouldn't be funny, but it is. But just to let you know, he's still employed, ladies and gentlemen.
Good for him.
So, yeah. And they walk past Heyman and Steve Lombardi, the Brooklyn Brawler. And then in a second, Triple H comes back out, and he's talking to Heyman, and he's like, what's going on? And Heyman tells him what everybody's been doing. He says, Austin threw you under the bus. Triple H is so confused now. He's like, I want to know how this involves me at all. And he says, Austin spilled the beans? That redneck piece of trash? So Heyman then tells him about the match tonight that he has with Taker, and Triple H leaves to go look for Austin. So we'll see there may be some dissension here in the two-man power trip.
Yes.
Could be. So he barges in Austin's locker room and confronts him, and he's like, and Austin goes, "We're through, pal," which is straight a Vince McMahon line if I've ever heard one. We're through, pal. So
Yeah.
Austin says that, and he's like, "You're a cheap shot artist," and he tells Triple H they traced the phone calls to his phone, and Triple H goes, "Oh, so all of a sudden you're Dick Tracy?"
That also sounds like a Vince McMahon line.
Yeah,
That's the most current reference he could come up with.
The most current sleuth reference he could get was Dick Tracy. So, that's my favorite part of this whole build-up so far.
I didn't think we'd ever have a Dick Tracy reference on an episode of Talking Taker, but
wait till next month.
there it is.
It was awesome. So Triple H denies it, and Austin's like, "No, you're guilty of sin." So anyway, they kind of have a little breakup there, and then Triple H demands that Regal erase the match with Taker tonight, and he's like, "You at least get rid of the stipulation, let it be a regular match." And Regal just blows up on, like, he almost turns babyface here. He's blowing up, he's getting in his face, he's poking him in the chest, he's like, "Bugger off!" And he's going on. People like you deserve, there's a special place for you. People like you don't deserve, or you deserve what's coming to you. And he's just going off, and the crowd starts cheering Regal. It's hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah. Then later on, Deborah confronts Stephanie, and she says that she hopes Triple H gets what's coming to him. And Stephanie's like, "No, he was framed." So later on, Taker's talking to his brother, and he's like, "I want to apologize to you because you may not get your match on Sunday, your chain match." He's like, I might ruin Triple H in just a minute here." Kane nods like in approval, like he understands. So is Kane mute at this point again? Does he not talk anymore?
He didn't talk on Raw either. I don't know
Yeah,
what's
he hasn't
going on
talked
with
in a while. So anyway,
That's a good point.
he hasn't talked in a long time. So as Triple H is getting ready for his match, Stephanie suddenly has this epiphany. She's like, "Oh, wait, Austin borrowed your phone on Monday." And Triple H has the exact same reaction that I do. He's like, "Well, that's a little late. You just now remembered this?" So he's like, "Well, forget it now." He gets a chain and he walks to the ring. And again, if you don't know where this is headed, you're in the same boat that Triple H is. So Taker then rides out for his match. He got the chain around his neck. It's a no-holds-barred match. Of course, it's personal, so he attacks Triple H on the ramp as he's making his entrance.
Absolutely.
But, of course, Triple H is making his normal entrance, like nothing's happened, like we mentioned several episodes ago, how you got to get that in. And anyway, so they battle on the stage by the Ovaltron, and Taker's he's just beating him senseless. At one point, they're in the ring, and Taker actually grabs him like a Joey Ryan move, like he grabs him in the private. And as he does that, Taz goes, "It's 5-on-2, Cole, 5-on-2." And it took me a second. But Taz was so excited to get that line out, man.
Bravo, Taz.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
That makes up for his Day They Will Live in Infancy last year.
Yeah, that makes up for it right
That
there.
makes up for it. It's 5-on-2, Cole. 5-on-2. I never heard that. So Taker gives Triple H a choke slam, and he's about to give him the last ride off the steps. He's brought the steps into the ring.
Oh, my God.
He would have killed this man. So he's about to get him the last ride off the steps. And as he's about to do that, Austin's on the Ovaltron up there. And he's like, "Hey, I'm going to make a phone call here to Sarah." And he calls her, and she's like, "Hello?" And he says, "Oh, your voice sounds as sweet as it did last Monday." And then he goes on to tell that he didn't do it alone. He had a partner in crime. And as he says this, Triple H hits Taker in the back with the chain. And apparently, the two-man power trip were in on it the entire time. We've all been hoodwinked. The wool's been pulled over our eyes.
The cerebral assassin strikes again.
Exactly. No cracks in the two-man power trip. Of course, Kane comes out to make the save. He's got a chain as well. And the two-man power trip bail as the Bros of Destruction look on in anger in the ring. They're just both super angry from finding out this reveal that these guys were in it the whole time together. So that's our build-up to Judgment Day.
That's it. A very personal feud.
Yeah.
A lot of chains. A lot of mind games going on here. Everything has chains as we head into Judgment Day 2001. May 20th, 2001 from Sacramento, California, in the Arco Arena. Kind of a smaller arena here.
Yeah.
It looked like the entryway is very, very small, very, very short entryway. I guess that's why Undertaker didn't have his bike. He didn't have his bike when he comes out, but this must not be enough room to even do anything with it here. But had you ever seen this show before?
Yes, I have seen this show. Although I cannot remember this main event, honestly. I remember some of the undercard stuff, so I don't remember this main event. But I do remember the chain match. I don't know why I remember that, but I forgot. Well, maybe I haven't seen the show.
No, we must have, because we've seen that Jerry Lynn promo. Because we talked about that forever since then.
In fact, I think we watched it together at your house, honestly.
I think we watched VHS.
Yeah.
And I remember the Benoit angle, 2 out of 3 falls.
Yep, that's the one I remember, yeah.
And the gauntlet match with Jericho and Benoit.
Winning, yeah.
So, I remember
that
those
stuff.
things. This one, I mean, I know I've seen it, but I didn't remember too much about it going into it here.
It didn't stand out. The main event didn't stand out in my mind, in my memory. But something that does stand out that I watched it is this opening video.
Oh, this was so cool.
Yes. We got the homeless guy from Batman Begins that Bruce Wayne gives his coat to. Or I don't know, somebody from like Home Alone or something. This guy out there.
Or maybe an actual homeless person.
Or could be an actual homeless prophet. He's prophesying about the Day of Judgment, and it's like these burn barrels all around him, and he's got this host of people gathered around listening to his spiel. So they're hanging on every word he's saying, but it's a really neat video. But it basically has the two main feuds, the two-man power trips feuds with the Brothers of Destruction, and like spliced in with all this stuff this homeless prophet is saying. But it was really cool.
That was great. Top-notch stuff here, man. I love WWF's production team. I love the set.
Oh, yeah.
With the hourglasses fading down to the moment of judgment or whatever. And Vince was all about Judgment Day tonight. In every one of his backstage promos and on commentary, he keeps talking about, it's Judgment Day. It's Judgment Day. Someone's going to face their judgment. I'm not going to face my judgment. Undertaker's going to be judged.
Yeah.
He remembered what show it was tonight. But
yeah, he did.
I say that to say we get a few backstage segments going into this match. We can kind of blow through some of this stuff here. But we're going to...
remember how Rikishi came back? He's a big face now?
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Super push.
Yeah.
He gets beat in 4 minutes by Regal. Just saying.
I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind, but like, what's the logic?
No,
anyway,
I don't
go
understand
ahead.
it.
Yeah, we get some backstage stuff. Triple H and the Pantsuit Princess arrive, and they go in Vince's office, and he questions, why they involve Sarah, since he says Taker and Kane are going to be way more vindictive now that you made it personal. And so Triple H is like, who are you to say anything about involving wives? Didn't you send yours to the sanitarium? So I thought that was pretty funny.
Good point there, Hunter.
Yeah.
Undertaker is going to barge into Commissioner Regal's office and threaten him into making the match no holds barred tonight. Says Regal owes him one, so he needs to make that match no holds barred. And Undertaker's reasoning? He doesn't want to go to jail for what he's going to do to Austin tonight.
Same thing he said on SmackDown, yeah.
It's legal if there's no holds barred. Yeah. Then Regal agrees, and Austin threatens Regal to go and deliver that message himself to Austin. So we see that here in a little while as well.
Oh, Regal, yeah. So Regal, he's kind of hesitating outside there, and he finally comes in and tells Austin it's no hold barred, and Austin's like, all right. And he kind of shrugs it off. So this makes the commentary team, they're flabbergasted. Why would he not? That's the story of the whole match. Why would he not care that it's a no DQ or no holds barred match? And so Vince is in rallying the troops backstage and their wives, and he's like, we got to stick together, do the right thing. And Triple H is like, tonight we're going to be the judge, juries, and executioners. So I'm sure that's a Vince line there as well.
Judgment Day. Got to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Kane and Triple H have their Intercontinental title chain match, and Kane is actually going to pick up the win for the Intercontinental title here because Stone Cold is going to interfere in the match and accidentally knock out Triple H with a chair. So we talked about they were faking dissension between the two-man power trip on SmackDown, but here's where the tension between the two-man power trip is actually going to start to tear a rift between them as Austin costs Triple H his title here.
Yep, and as Kane celebrates his new title win, we see a Big Daddy Deadman sign in the crowd.
Ooh, maybe that nickname did get over.
It barely did with this one person, at least. So it's over with me in 2019.
We also see Triple H after the match. He's all bloodied from the action in there, and Vince is telling him, come on, man, we got to get things together. We still got to take care of this title match later on tonight. And Triple H is upset at him. He's upset that he lost and everything went wrong with him. And Vince is saying, no, we got to stick together. So that's going to lead us to the main event, a no-holds-barred WWF Championship match between The Undertaker and Stone Cold for the WWF Championship.
Did they make it? Was there his match with the Rock at Mania? Was there no holds barred as well? Did they make it on the show?
The WrestleMania 2001.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah,
Rock
I can't remember if they made it on the show, but it was.
I feel like they do that a lot
barred.
now. Like in this time period, they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, it's no DQ now or something. No holds barred.
They'll get to the arena and work out the match and figure out they want it to be no holds barred, so they got to come up with a reasoning to make it like that.
Yeah. Well, they showed this video, and as you mentioned, this Austin's new catchphrase, it's "My name is Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm the World Wrestling Federation champion, and I can't be stopped." And he says it like so much it made me sick of hearing it. He says it like 14 times in this video that plays before the match itself. And but to save us from that, Vince's music hits, and he comes out for commentary, and I was so excited that he's going to be on commentary.
Surprises JR and Heyman, and JR and Heyman are in great form here.
Gentlemen, don't mind if I join you, do you? Of course not, huh? It'll be the highlight of my week, Mr. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! That's all right. That's all right. Sit down! Sit down! Sit down! That's your age, will you? Don't be an idiot. How are you, sir? Great. How are you? I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. On tonight, huh?
It's okay.
It's so funny to see
JR
Heyman.
says, "I'm not going to stand up." He said, "I'm not going to stand up." Was he a woman? He only stands for women. This is great.
It's funny to see Heyman sucking up to Vince McMahon too. Just 2 months after ECW has gone out of business and all that.
Yeah.
But man, it's Undertaker coming out first, Stone Cold coming out next, and I was just thinking, I said it at the top of the show, we have seen this match many times now on this show in many different incarnations. Both of these guys have come a long way, or very different places than when we first, all the way back in 1997, talked about them having a pay-per-view match.
Yeah, these are not the same two guys that we saw back then. Their heel-face alignment has changed multiple times, and their attitudes, their fighting styles changed, their characters changed. I mean, I think Steve Austin, his has changed a little bit, but I mean, Taker's changed the most. His character, I guess. But
you could say, honestly, they're kind of already the last two guys standing from that time period, because Shawn Michaels gone, Bret Hart gone. The Rock wasn't a main eventer at that time, but he's gone to Hollywood. He's not here during this time. Mick Foley,
and Triple H
gone.
wasn't a main eventer at that time either.
Okay, yeah, you do have Triple H,
but he wasn't a main eventer at that point.
Yeah, right. But
you're right. Foley's gone. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I didn't think about that. Well, one thing Vince was thinking of when Taker's music comes out, it says "Dead Man Walking." He goes, "Dead Man Walking." You got that right.
he's in a surly mood tonight. It's not the same classic Vince on commentary. No. I was kind of disappointed by his role out here. He gets in a few choice lines like that, but he's not the classic Vince on commentary we have loved so many times.
No, he's not. But JR gets a cool line in here. He reminds us that Taker's a 3-time WWF champion. He says in one time he beat Austin for that title, which would have been...
That's a good point.
That would have been Over the Edge, right?
That was Over the Edge, yep.
Yeah, so they don't mention that pay-per-view, obviously, but
good point.
We covered that here on Talking Taker, but they mentioned that, he actually has beaten Austin for the title before, so I thought that was a pretty cool little bit of continuity there. Again, JR looking it up in the almanac. not the internet.
Not the internet. It doesn't have that.
Doesn't have that in Oklahoma.
Probably wrote it down on a postcard. But even more continuity is that Undertaker does what we have seen him do so many times here. As Stone Cold is coming out, Undertaker goes and meets Stone Cold in the aisleway and takes the fight right to him because this is
Personal.
maybe the most personal feud Undertaker's been in yet, right here. So he tosses Undertaker all around the aisle and the entryway, the very short entryway, tosses him back and forth around it, takes him all the way over back to the announce table and chokes Austin with the sound cables over there, just beats him from pillar to post to the arena.
Austin's selling like a mug to me. He's falling
yeah.
and tripping all over the place. I mean, again, this is not the same Austin. This is Dangerous Alliance, Stone Cold Steve Austin. 1993 or whatever, those years where he was in Dangerous Alliance. Like, this is him, that heel
Stunning
mode.
Steve Austin.
Stunning Steve Austin. So, yeah, where he's flopping all over the place and bumping like a heel. It's just funny. And then in a cool moment, as Taker's beating up Austin, he actually takes his own bandana off and tosses it at Vince on commentary. I thought it was pretty funny.
Great touch.
It's good.
Another great touch is we see something I don't think we've ever seen before. Is Undertaker does old school, except he hops up on the guardrail while Austin's on the outside and walks along the guardrail and hits the old school on him right there. Very, very cool.
Yeah, very neat. Because he takes like the top of the cover of the table off first, and I was like, oh, he's going to use a table as a spot. No, he just climbs up the table, then on the guardrail and hits old school. It's pretty neat. So I really liked it. Then after that, he throws Austin in the ring, and then they roll back out of the ring and go back up by the stage again. And I just wrote in my notes, this is very much an Attitude Era brawl. It's very reminiscent of the stuff they used to have back in 97, 98 with these two guys, in fact, even.
Yeah, it really felt like that.
Really. It doesn't it's not the same as all the undercard matches. It's different. It stands out. Not good or bad. It's just it's different. So
they use a fire extinguisher. They bring a chair into the ring. Finally, kind of get back towards the ring area.
Yeah.
Taker grabs a chair, brings it in, but Austin gains control for a minute. Austin goes for a stunner, but Undertaker blocks it and hits a big boot of his own, and they finally start to turn it into. It doesn't ever really turn into much of a wrestling match here, but they do finally make it into the ring.
Yeah, they're back in the ring at this point, like you said, and Austin's beginning to work the knee, and JR's like, that's the key to defeating Taker, which we've seen Austin do that in all their matches back in the day, and, every smart technical wrestler does that to Taker to tell a story about him chopping the big man down, but they kind of brawl on the outside again here, and JR's talking about how Austin's changed, and it must be Vince's fault, and Vince goes, no, Austin's exactly the same as he used to be, which I just thought, that's just... I guess it's perfect for him to say as a heel, but like it's just it's a crap because they feuded for 3 years.
Oh, it's total crap.
But it makes sense because he's a heel. He's supposed to say BS like that. So, but it ticked me off. It made me hate him even more, which is what it's supposed to do. So, but it was great.
Undertaker starts to stalk Mr. McMahon on the outside of the ring and gets distracted with him, which kind of allows Austin to get some offense in, and then. Here's where the real meat of the match comes, is that Austin's going to start smashing Undertaker's legs across the ring post. Wrapped around there and just repeatedly, over and over and over again, smashes his legs into the post, smashes Taker's knees into the steps as well. He's really trying to chop down Undertaker's legs and work those over here. Yeah,
he hits a chop block on the outside to the knee, and like I said, just working his leg. They get back in the ring, and Austin's shoe comes untied. So, and then I thought it was kind of funny, but JR tells us that he's actually trying to break Taker's legs. So I was like, wow, that's pretty vindictive. So, but really working that knee, and Taker's trying to fight out again. He kind of sells this stuff really well. He's ripping at Austin's face and elbowing him, and the crowd's really cheering Taker at this point, and they're beginning to chant, Austin sucks, and dude, he loves it. Austin loves the heel he's getting right here.
He flicks off the crowd.
Yeah.
He's loving it.
Yeah,
I don't remember them ever giving him that much heel heat.
I know.
It was there, man. You can go back and watch it. And Undertaker, he's getting the crowd alive for him. He's in this leg hold for a long time, but like you said, he's fighting in it the entire time. The crowd starts clapping for him. Undertaker finally fights back up to his feet and sends Austin flying to the outside as he starts to, Undertaker follows him out, starts tearing apart the announce table, the English announce table, which Heyman doesn't appreciate. He says, the Spanish guys are right over there. What are you doing?
I missed that. That's amazing. I didn't hear that. It's the wrong table.
It's the wrong table, bro.
Spanish guys are over there. That's amazing.
That was a good
Heyman's
line.
so good.
It was great.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's going to lose his table here as Undertaker grabs the goozle and chokeslams Austin right through the English announce table.
Yeah, and Vince scurries away like a wounded puppy at this point. Man, and Undertaker rolls Austin to the ring, and he gets a 2 count, and he gets a scoop slam, gets another 2 count, and then Austin kind of powders out and goes and lays in the rubble of the dismantled table there. And as he does that, he grabs one of the monitors, and he nails Taker right between the eyes with it, and it gets some massive heat from the crowd. And as Taker falls, you can, if you pay attention, you see he's about to blade himself. But then he goes in the ring and he starts removing the turnbuckle pad.
Yeah, which
never
came into play. Yeah,
right.
I guess he was stalling for Undertaker to get the color right there or
I guess
something.
so.
I don't know. But yeah, interesting that it never comes into anything. Austin goes outside and unloads on Taker to open up that cut even more. They fight into the ring, and Austin hits the Thez press, which actually gets a lot of heat from the crowd.
Yeah,
the crowd
it does.
boos him real bad when that happens. And Austin, once again, does our favorite spot of all time, hits the multiple covers as Undertaker refuses to stay down.
4 of them. Yeah, he hits 4 in a row. It's amazing.
I love it.
And then he goes and who's the referee? Is it Hebner, I think? He's talking to Hebner, and I think in the corner, and then Taker comes up behind him, and he hits the Ric Flair mule kick, the low blow, which doesn't matter because it's no holds barred.
It's no DQ, yeah.
It's funny because it's a straight out of Ric Flair's playbook too. So just like immediately after the multiple pinfalls, so it's funny.
Austin uses that moment to hit the old 316 and choke out the Undertaker some more. Undertaker keeps fighting though. He hits a suplex, but Austin just scrambles Taker's brains with a chair, or as JR calls it,
Good God, the brains are scrambled! Smothered, covered, and chunked!
Big Waffle House mark out moment.
Yeah, he was ready for this show to be over and get to the Waffle House, man. Ready to beat the crowd.
Take it to the house.
He's starving.
Yeah.
So now we know how JR likes his hash browns.
Oh yeah, smothered, covered in chunks. So.
Yeah. So what is that? What's smothered, covered, and chunked? Onions.
Smothered in onions, covered in cheese, and chunked with ham. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's how JR orders his hash browns.
Scattered's always understood.
It's
Scattered on the
always
grill.
scattered, of course.
Yes. Scattered, smothered, covered in chunks. So yeah, that's what I used to get. So on mine, I have the JR special. So anyway, if you've never had that, you don't live in America, you never had Waffle House. Hash browns. When you get here, you find a Waffle House down south.
First thing you do.
Hash browns. Yeah.
Watch Stone Cold ET and then go to the Waffle House.
Don't get the harsh browns. So anyway, speaking of harsh browns, Heyman and JR are going harshly at each other about if Austin is changed or not. And Heyman's like, he even comments here that I've managed both these men early in their careers, which is kind of funny because he actually did in WCW. Kind of neat. Or in would it have been USWA when he was with Taker? I don't remember, but anyway, I know he was with him with Austin in WCW. So anyway,
we hear JR arguing also that you don't invite the dead man to a fighting dance, which I guess that's something you have in Oklahoma. You have fighting dances. I don't know what that is.
Like that. Michael Jackson, is it the Beat It video where they fight with the sword fight?
That is a fighting dance. You're correct, sir.
Oh man! Well, after that CTE chair shot in Taker's head, Austin's inviting Taker to get up, and Taker actually does get up about halfway, and he flicks Austin off.
Yes, this was great.
It's always fun to see somebody do that to Austin.
Oh yeah, the crowd loved it too.
Yeah.
And then Taker does something else rare here as Austin gives him the stunner, and Undertaker kicks out at 2. Which the crowd again pops real big. They're really into this match, and that was a rare feat to see someone kick out of the stunner like that.
Oh yeah,
very cool.
I can't remember anybody else that's kicked out of it at this point. So maybe Taker and Rock.
Yeah, I think The Rock has, but pretty rare, very protected finish.
Oh yeah, for real, like they all used to be. So they used to mean something. But Austin nails Taker in the back with a chair, but then Taker hits a Death Valley blow on him, and then he hits a choke slam. He then grabs the chair and beats Austin with it repeatedly. And then, of course, his buddy Triple H is going to run out. He's bloodied up, but he's got the sledgehammer. He's coming in, and he gets a chair shot or 5 from Taker. And
he gives him some Big Daddy Dead Man spankings to both the guys as they're on the ground.
Chair spanking, little boys. So, And then Austin is going to get a CTE chair shot, but Vince is going to break up the pinfall here. Vince slides in and breaks it up.
And then Taker unloads on McMahon and gives him some punches. Austin gets up, and he accidentally hits McMahon with the chair. And the crowd is on fire for this finishing sequence, man. They really buy into Undertaker winning the title here as everything keeps going wrong for the two-man power trip. But Triple H is finally going to get that sledgehammer shot on the Undertaker. But maybe Kane is going to come out to save the day as his pyro suddenly goes off.
Yeah, like you said, Triple H nails Taker with the sledgehammer, and then Austin goes to cover him. Kane's music hits, and it's a very short runway, but he runs out. But before he even gets to the ring, Austin pins Taker at 23 minutes and 8 seconds. And it was kind of just like, I don't know if it was mistimed or someone missed their spot or what, but it was strange. But, I mean, it played into the story. It made sense, but honestly, the timing was a little bit weird.
Well, it almost didn't make sense because, like, why wouldn't Kane come out any earlier? These guys beating up his brother, and he comes out at the last possible second and totally misses the opportunity here. That was my only nitpick with the match, was that little slip in logic there toward the end. I know you got to have Austin win, so you got to do something, but that was kind of weird. Yeah,
I felt like it should have been a little earlier, so I'm not sure what happened there, but it just seemed like the ending came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but,
it makes Kane look like kind of an idiot.
Yeah, but I guess he has that broken wing, so maybe we can forgive him there.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, but yeah, so the heels leave with their titles held high. Taker sulks in the ring, and Kane's kind of by his side and just kind of got his head down, and I guess he's ashamed that he was too slow. So I just wrote that the ending was like overbooked, like it was a Russo style era, but it doesn't take away from it, it was fun, and Austin got a win over Taker. It wasn't a clean victory, but he shouldn't get that because he's a heel. So, but remind me of their earlier matches, but I don't know. I wrote in my notes. I wouldn't go out of my way to catch it, but as we're talking about it, I really enjoyed it. Honestly, we're kind of recapping here. It was actually better than I remembered, so I would go out of my way to see it. So.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to or remembered it as well. Maybe I had low expectations, but it was, like you said, very early Attitude Era-esque, very 97, 98. Felt like a return to that form. The crowd was really hot. I think that really added to it here.
Yeah.
They were really into that finishing sequence. And yeah, it was a little overbooked, but I was feeling it, man.
Not in a bad way, yeah.
I could imagine being in 2001 and being really hot for it. Not knowing what the finish was and thinking the title might change hands here. And, God, I mean, Austin he could play that heel character well. I know it gets looked at as one of the biggest flops and failures of all time, but I think we need to revisit that narrative. Like, go back and watch this match, and you might have a different opinion on if Austin's heel turn was a failure or not. So, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what our listeners think, especially, maybe if you think you hated this match, go back and watch it here in 2019 and see if you really do hate it or if you really thought it was dumb or something like that, and let us know what you thought of it. If it holds up, if it's better or worse than you remember it, we want to hear your thoughts on this matchup. You can, of course, let us know all those thoughts on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, @TalkingTaker. Real easy to find on all those. And follow us along on this journey, rolling through The Undertaker's last ride. We appreciate all of you out there doing it. I want to give a special shout out to one of our listeners. Shout out to Polly Richards @Polly Richards. That's Polly with an I, who said, after discovering your podcast a couple months ago, finally caught up with your episodes. And like another one of your listeners, I remember watching most of my WWF on Channel 4 here in the UK. #Taker Easy. So I remember Polly reaching out back when I first started listening to the podcast. It's cool that you finally caught up, and now you'll hear this on this episode. And man, that's just really awesome. I love hearing from listeners that kind of pick up from the beginning, and we've seen a lot of listeners go back through the archives when they first hear about us. So I think that's awesome that you enjoyed enough to go back and enjoy it.
And to suffer through the audio quality from the first several episodes, because we've gotten a lot better, I must say. So, the audio has, at least. I'm not saying we have, but the audio has. So
we've gotten a lot longer, if nothing else.
There's more to cover.
There is. I know, man.
Back then, it was just Superstars and Wrestling Classic or whatever. That's all we had. So
we appreciate all of our creatures of the night who have been along for the entire ride. Man, those guys that have been there for many, many months and are going to keep continuing on with us. We appreciate the Bottom Line Wrestling Podcast for giving us a shout out every week. And of course, this is the perfect time if you need some more Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you can't get enough, go over and give them a follow at Bottom Line Cast on Twitter to hear all about Stone Cold's career. They'll get to this matchup in this time period eventually, so you can kind of compare notes with what they thought of it and what we thought of it and how they're looking at it from Stone Cold's perspective. So go check them out. Go check out that Undertaker video that we posted on social media as well. And also, let's talk about next week's episode, Travis. We're going to do something a little bit different here, as requested by one of our listeners. Saint Ridley Santos requested this long time ago, and I told him we'd get to it eventually when we found the right time for it, and now's going to be the right time for it next week. We're going to take a break from the 2001 narrative and go way, 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 way back to before The Undertaker was even The Undertaker.
Yes, take a way back trip in our way back machine and go back when he was just old Mean Mark Callis himself. So in the future Undertaker and WCW jabroni at this point. Basically.
So we're doing this because the next stop on our encyclopedic exploration through The Undertaker's pay-per-view career is going to take us to Invasion 2001. So the WCW has finally collapsed, and now they're going to reform and rise like a phoenix from the ashes and take on the WWF. We've spent a lot of time talking about WCW on this show. We were both huge WCW marks back in the day. Travis, you were WCW for life. So we've talked about kind of the parallels between WCW and WWF through the years. And The Undertaker was not The Undertaker back in WCW, so we weren't sure if we were ever going to talk about his time, Mark Calloway's time before the WWF, but since a few of you have won, especially St. Ridley, we're going to go back and do it, kind of do a run-through of his entire run in WCW and that early part of his career. We're going to focus particularly on the 1990 Great American Bash pay-per-view and review...
It's a barn burner, ladies and gentlemen. You just wait.
We're going to review Lex Luger versus Mark Callis with Paulie Dangerously in his corner.
Look at that.
For the United States Championship. So, Mark Callis getting a title shot there. We'll talk a little bit about his run in WCW, why it didn't work out, how he came to the WWF, give a little bit of that backstory as much as we can, and sort of be a bonus episode as we head into the WCW invasion. And we'll talk about Undertaker versus some of WCW's greatest and not so greatest stars ever in the WWF over the next few weeks of the show. Just kind of a fun diversion and different type of look at the man who would become Taker.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seemed appropriate as we're entering into this invasion, and like you said, WCW's dead, or they're kind of being brought back on life support with the WWF. But anyway, it seems appropriate. There's no time better than now to stick it in there, and so we're going to go ahead and do that. Episode 75 next week will be our bonus episode with me, Mark Callis, Mark Calloway, whatever the heck you want to call him, Booger Red Booger, whatever. We'll get to Booger Red in a couple of years, won't we? So
we will, and you know, like you said, this will be
Texas Red. That was
Texas Red.
Yeah.
Well, this will be kind of cool to look at everything we've covered in 11 years of Undertaker's career and see how much he's grown since these days, and see if we can see any of the elements that we're seeing in his career nowadays, seeing if there's any parallels, if there was any of that there in the early days. I think it'll be neat. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Before we get there, again, we'd like to hear your comments about this show. If you were there at the Arco Arena in Sacramento, California, that hot crowd, man. That California crowd was hot for this match. And so if you were there, let us know what you think. Let us know about the rest of the night, too. Had a pretty good undercard. Those tag matches and Benoit Angle match. And anyway, let us know about that, and let us know about your thoughts about this match in particular. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, take it easy.
God knows I've worked all my life to become the WWF light heavyweight champion. And what do I get for my efforts? I get to talk. Well, big whoopity-doo! I hope I earned my keep today. How was that, JR? Was my interview okay for you, JR? Huh? Am I a good enough champ for you, JR?
Yeah, JR, is he?
JR got to do with it. So I guarantee you one thing. If I was there, I'd give a whole new meaning to the words Judgment Day. If you don't believe me, just watch me.
That was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.